Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for the Precious Metals and Critical Minerals Conference. The last presentation of the day is from Star Gold. Please note, you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for a one-on-one meeting by clicking Book a Meeting. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Lindsay Gorell, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Star Gold, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol SRGZ. Welcome, Lindsay.
Jerry, thanks a lot for inviting me. All right, so hello, everybody. So I just want to kind of give you an overview of Star Gold up front and a little bit of background on myself. We're a little different than a junior mining company that you might have seen before. My background is I've actually developed and built 3 mines already in my life. One is gold in the United States back in the 90s, titanium in India, and then another mineral called fluorspar in Canada. So I've actually found and developed 3 mining companies in my life. This one asset you're going to see today, I acquired in 2013. The reason I acquired it, which I'm also the single largest shareholder, is that I wanted to basically produce my own gold and silver due to the fact of the global debt crisis, et cetera, that started in 2010-11. So just a quick overview of why I invest in Star Gold. We have what is probably one of the cheapest type of gold to produce outside of Panny for gold, which is basically oxidized ore body on surface. So we have about 200,000 ounces already equivalent of gold on the surface of one of our hills. I'll go through that. We have a small mine production of just under 30,000 ounces per year initially, which will grow above that. And if you look at gold prices at 4,000 ounces of gold, we would pay back our capital to build our mine within about 5 months. And we are on full speed ahead to get full permitted to start production. And we believe we're 12 months away from basically getting that permit approved. So we could be mining our gold and silver in the summer of next year. So a little bit about the property. So how we found the property was in the 1980s. There was a feasibility study that was done on something called Long Street. This is Little Hill here, and they had found an oxidized gold silver ore body on surface. So we had found that feasibility study in around 2011, and then we went into the area and we walked it and we staked what's called the Long Street Hill, main hill. And then over the next year, we went and walked the entire area, all these other mountains and hills, and we basically staked the entire thing. So we own 100% of everything, which is basically 9 outcrop targeted gold and silver deposits. And what we found out was the geology of this was very similar to Round Mountain, which is run by Kinross. Obviously, the geology is very similar. So I did about 5 trips around Mountain. My senior geologist who was with me then, he actually passed away, was an old Round Mountain guy. And kind of try to understand how do they develop their property? How do they go to developing their property? And their advice to me was, this is a very hard to find property because it's fine gold and silver everywhere. And their advice to me was drill enough ore to go to production and drill from within the pit. So that's what we did. So we focused basically on the main hill. We've done about 220 holes on the main hill. And what we did was, if you kind of look at the hill here, and I actually have a really good 3D geological model that I could show, but I don't have it on this presentation. But if you take a look at the hill, what's in colored is we had to put enough holes together, close enough together, some within 15 feet of each other, to prove that this is a homogeneous ore body. But we also know, and this is so on the colored map here on top of the hill, which is about 10% of the hill, is about 200,000 ounces equivalent of gold. All the other drill holes that you see have hit gold and silver, but they're not close enough to be part of the ore body. So what we believe is that as you drill, as you start to mine and you go down, we would just take the entire hill down. We know that it goes down to 1,200 feet already, and the pit itself is only 200 feet deep. So the first thing when you develop a gold mine or any mine is the resource there? Do you have enough resource to go to production? The second thing, can you produce it? We've done all the metallurgical work, and within 20 days on a leach pad, we get about 80% of the gold out and about 13% of the silver out. So once you had that information, the next thing was, what is your economics of this? So number one is the resource there? Number two is, can you produce it? So the next thing is, when you looked at the economics, We then developed we developed our mine. So basically, you got the main hill here. So let me go back 2 slides. So what you're looking at, very simple, very close. So the main hill's here, and the leach pad is here. So a couple hundred meters away. So all we're doing is we're basically crushing what we're blast, crush, truck to the leach pad, produce gold in 20 days. So once we've obviously figured out we can produce the gold, we had developed the mine. So obviously with the pit and the leach pad, we did our economic model, and it gave us, based on operating costs in today's numbers, just under $1,000 an ounce. We're about $950 an ounce operating costs. So we have an operating cost of about $950 an ounce and a capital cost of about $36 million to put this in production once we get the permit. And again, like I said, when you kind of look at the economics of this property, if you kind of look at 3,000 gold, at 3,000 gold and 30 silver, we net about $57 million net cash per year on a $36 million capital build. So if you look at the cash flow produced by this product, this mine at 4,000 gold, we have payback of our capital in about 5 months. So creating about 85 million net cash, which in today's world is about 80 cents a share under what we have today in the market. So again, the key thing, there's 4 key buckets, right? Resource, is it there? Yes. 2, can you produce it? Yes. Metallurgical. 3, economically, does it make sense to build? Yes. Low operating costs, low capital costs. And then the 4th thing really is the study of your environmental and species studies, et cetera. And we've done all that. So in the last number of years, we went through and did all the environmental studies for species and for flora. We also did all the cultural studies. So we have all those studies done that allow us to move forward onto permit. I'll go through that in a second. So as a snapshot, this is sort of where we are today. This is the economic model of today, the economic model of the thing. And if you look at the future and what you have, so if you take a look at the main zone, so you got the main zone here, which is where we have the majority of our ore body. And then if you look at north, we went over to north and we drilled 3 holes at north. We believe these hills are connected. So we drilled 3 holes at north, showing mineralization down to 400 feet. So we know that there's 9 surface ore bodies. We know that main or Longstreet is to depth, and we know that main is to depth. So we believe this is a lot bigger, a lot more ounces than we have already today. So if you kind of walk around and look, Cypress Ridge, which is here, which is a little bit higher hill, it has 3,600 feet of outcropped multi-vein system at 0.36 ounce a ton, 20 foot wide. So that itself is a massive vein that we'll go drill that once we go into production and start producing cash flow. And then you look at Red Knob, which is just a little bit south of Maine. Its assays on surface are similar to Maine. And then Opal Ridge on the other side is a little bit finer, a little bit lighter grade than Maine, but all these have outcrop. And then if you jump over to north, which is the other ore body we want to drill extensively, the outcrop is about 3 times higher ounces per ton than Maine. So we believe that these for sure are connected somewhere down below. So again, the idea is, based on what we saw at Round Mountain, was to turn around and get an ore body to go to production and drill from within the thing. I think we just had a question, so I'm talking about this. Question just came in. It says, do you have much of an understanding of the feeder to the system, where it might be? We believe that the feeder is, so we just go back to the other slide, which is easier to see. So we know, based on Round Mountain, what they found is that we believe the feeder is somewhere down in through here somewhere. We think that as a volcanic collapse and everything came up, that as you take a look at Maine and north, which have the higher grade ore on surface and also some of the depth, we believe the feeder might be down here. So obviously the idea is that we start to mine the Longstreet main hill, start bringing it down, drill from within, drill over on north, and then bring this mine together. So if you go back to Round Mountain and look what they started with, they basically had 2 hills, and now it's a quarter mile deep. So again, they came down through the hills, mined everything, went down, found the feeder, etc. There's a question on the environment. Let me get that in a second. So if you look at where we are today, we have filed our plan of operations. I'll get back to the people. Our plan of operations with the Forest Service, et cetera. So what we have right now is, let's go back. So like I said, we've done all the wildlife and biological studies. So there's nothing in wildlife or biology that would stop the permit, number one. Number two, we didn't have to do a bat study because there's an additive with bats. So before we start production, we had to let the bats out, release the bats, et cetera. The next study we did was cultural and archaeological. So what's important was, is there an Indian burial ground there or not? So we did cultural archaeological studies. Those studies said that there's nothing on site that would stop us from getting a permit. So again, the three biggest studies are obviously your wildlife, your biological, and your cultural. All three are done. All three say nothing's impeding us there. The last thing we did was, one of the things that people forget about is water. So to be able to permit for water with the state takes time. But in our basin, we're quite lucky. There were two families, a rancher and a farmer, that had basically private water rights. So we went out and negotiated and bought private water rights. So we own all our own private water rights to go put this mine in production for the leach pad. So again, if you look at the question that came back was, what feedback have you received so far from USSF, NEPA, et cetera, local stakeholders? Basically, local stakeholders are on side, because the only two local stakeholders really are those two, either farmer or cattle rancher that we own water rights from. We worked very close to USSF on obviously all the studies we've done, and we filed what's called the plan of operations. And the plan of operations, we believe, will be approved by the government in early March. Once we get that plan of operation approved in early March, that's the final things we got to get done to file our final permit, which we think we can get all the work done by this September, October at the latest to file. So go back to the question was, what feedback have you received so far from the USFS, NEPA, local stakeholders, and do you foresee any issues around water, ARD, reclamation requirements? So the question is, on the feedback from USFS, NEPA, we think that's fine. Water, we own our own water, which is important, allows us to move through things quicker. And ARD, et cetera, we have where our leach pad will be. We believe that the reclamation bonds and that kind of stuff won't be that high. So again, we kind of look through all that. So again, step through it all, go back. We have a resource, yes. We have produce it. Economic models really good, and we have the environmental clearance. So again, the idea is that once we get the PO, which will be a major event for us, so we hope we get this announced in March. That'll be a major catalyst at the next level that lays out the last few things we got to get done to get our permit filed this September. That then get the permit approved, and hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, under the current scenario with the Trump administration and administration on fast permanent basis. In fact, we have a lot of silver too. We may be mining by next summer, which means that we could be producing cash flow to this company by next September. So again, a little different than a lot of other junior mining companies. We're also just in the middle of finalizing a financing, which I've put in. I'm $500,000 of that financing myself. So if you go look at the insiders of this company, we funded a company continuously for the last 10 years. We have never sold any shares, so we're 100% in with the shareholders. So we're in the exact same position as a shareholder. So obviously the whole focus for us is to get the permit, get the production. So you kind of look at the catalyst going through. Plan of operations approved hopefully in March. We have to go back in. We drill our water wells, prove that we have enough water to produce water, which we do. So we produce the water wells, get that proven. We then drill our monitoring wells, which gives us monitoring for our leach pad and our breakdown. We then work through. Let me go back to it here. Sorry. Yeah. So basically on the plan of operations, we're doing basically four more things. Like I said, water well drilling. So we have identified where the water is going to come from. We don't drill the wells to make sure we have enough feed per well. So we have to do another well. We expand to maybe a third well on that side. So we get that done. That's proven, ticked off. We have the water. Then we do the monitoring wells, which we have to drill the walls around the leach pad basically to have our monitoring wells set up properly. To make sure that we have water monitoring early on. The next thing we're doing is our geotechnical drilling, obviously where we're designing the leach pad. So we do our geotechnical drilling. All this will be done this spring. And then also we want to do is we want to go back into the main zone. So let me go back and show you what I was trying to explain earlier. If we go into the main zone, and you look at that drill hole log. So like I said, these are all in the resource because the drill holes are very close together. As you get wider apart, because of the resource we have, you know you have you have gold and silver mineralogy below the pit, but you can't prove it's homogenized. So what we're doing, we're coming back in and we're drilling in this piece here, mainly because we know that the grades are getting higher as we're going down slope and down depth. So we're going to come in and we're going to fill this in over here and add a lot more resources to our thing. So let me go back. We have quite a few questions here. So let me see if I can grab a few of them here. So someone asked, what is the current capital raise? Well, we're closing our capital raise. Will be closed on Monday. So we've basically completed it. That'll be closed on Monday. I don't think I can publicly say the price, so I don't have that out there. So, but if you have interest, just ping me. But we are closing on Monday, our financing, which will give us enough. We're raising enough money to get the permit. So if you think about the catalyst again, currently we came up with a new resource in December. We'll come up with our PO approval hopefully in March. That's a major catalyst. Then as the next 6 months, 7 months go by, we'll be announcing things like our water's been proven. We've done this hole. We've done more drilling on a resource, expansion of resource. We've done our work on our mine design. We've done our work on our final, putting together our studies, etc. We have a couple upgrade of our studies we got to do late this spring, early summer. We'll get those done, and then compile the document to file hopefully this fall. And then obviously it's just time to get the final permit. Someone said, how important is the strategy that the Longstreet is 100% owned? It's a single asset story in tier 1 jurisdiction. So I don't think it's a single asset story. I think if you go back and look at the ore body itself, what we're trying to explain to everybody is the asset we drilled is the main asset. What you have is a number of, so it's not a single asset because you have 9 separate ore bodies that we believe is here out of this area that we basically walked and staked over a year. So I think the idea is that we would drill out the main Longstreet, get that in production, drill that out, go down, do no slope, and try to tie it together. So I think it's important. I think it is important that it's 100% owned, because right now, if we want to raise money at some sort of ownership split or something, we have the ability to do that. We're not doing that, but we could do that. The second thing is that obviously, because have you heard it from when I started at the very beginning, I've developed and built 3 mines in my life already from scratch. So I understand jurisdiction. I understand why I picked Nevada back in 2012 when we started looking for a project. And this is why I picked this jurisdiction, because it's a jurisdiction you can get a permit on. So I think that's really, really important. So I think those are important pieces of that. A good question. If Longstreet performs as planned and satellite targets convert, how big could this operation realistically become in terms of annual gold equivalent production and overall time frame? I think what we believe is this. So here's what we got. So here's our drill hole data. So if you look at the drill hole data, so what we have is we do know that on main, obviously we have an ore body on top and it's down depth and down slope. And we do know the 400-foot holes we put on north all have mineralogy, gold, silver, and at top is almost 3 times as high grade as main. So the question was, what do you see this could become? Well, if the drill holes on main alone, if it's one ore body, if those drill holes that are far apart, they're saying that seeing gold and silver, equivalent grades that we have now, you could find yourself having maybe 800,000 ounces of gold equivalent on just the main hill. If you take that ore body and bring it down to the bottom of the hill, again, that's to the bottom of the hill. That's not going deeper. And then if you jump over to main and assume that main, which is about the same size, it ends up being the same grade as so. This could be a lot. It could be a lot bigger than what we're doing. So remember, The reason we're doing it the way we're doing it is when I went to Round Mountain, I spent a lot of time understanding how they develop their property. They said very simply, get the production, make the money, and expand. So what you'll see is we're going to go out and probably drill. And before we go into production, we'll be drilling some in the north next year. So we'll drill out some in the north. And we want to prove up a lot more resources at depth, both in Maine and that. How lucky is it that you will have all permits necessary to go into production in mid-2027? Again, that's always a risk. What we do know is that when it comes to what can stop a mine, there's always things that can stop a mine. I've built 3 in my lifetime, and the 2 main issues are external, i.e. people around you, and 2, the government on studies, etc. So what we do know is we have really good people around us that are for the mine. That's positive. I've been in my life before where that wasn't the case. So in this case it is. So that's great. So your stakeholders, not just us, the shareholders and around you, are for it. And then when it comes to your environmental studies and your cultural studies, we found nothing to date, well, we found nothing in all the studies that would impede us from getting the permit. So there's nothing there that says that we have something that will stop us from getting the permit. So by mid-27, I can't say it's a percentage. If you assume that the Trump administration is true on their word that they're fast tracking these permits based on Small Mines Act and some stuff they put out just actually yesterday on the critical mineral silver, you could logically be in production in the 2027 summer. That's not 100% though. So that, but again, that is a possibility. Let's not say it's for sure. Maybe it's late 27, but there's nothing in between now and then that will stop us. It's just time. So the risk I see on Star Gold is 2, is time and gold price. So under my scenario, if you look at the model, how I look at when I started putting this thing, started going fast again this year, I always said to myself, at $2,500 gold, this thing pays back the capital in 1 year. So at $2,500 gold, you create about 38 million net cash per year. So let's assume you're in production in September 27, and it's $2,500 gold. All your capital is paid back in 1 year. So again, I believe gold will be above that, but that's how I rationalize it myself because I am the major investor. I always look at risk of what you're doing, risk of getting a permit, risk of everything. So we would never continue to go forward on developing the project unless we start ticking the risks off. And so we believe pretty well most of those risks are ticked off. I hope I answered that question properly. Yeah, good question. There's one I just mentioned, that the U.S. policy focus. So I believe that another announcement just came out. I think it was yesterday that they're really pushing on fast track. So I think under the current administration, we couldn't be in a better time to file a permit ever since I've been involved in mining since the late 80s. So I think that this is the best time ever you could do this, mainly in the fact that the government is going to help things move through quicker. The government wants these minerals being produced in the United States, and because we've done all the studies ahead of time, which is rare, right? A lot of junior miners just keep drilling, but just because you drill and have a resource doesn't mean you can go to production. What we've done to date is made sure everything's in line. That once this permit is filed, this late summer, early fall, we know that there's nothing there that will stop us. It's just time after that. So. A great question. Someone just saw our news release. We just expanded the leadership team. I think so. Let's go. Remember, we were going to go to permit in 21. So we had moved forward with a PEA. What we're doing today, we're going to do in 21. And we had a pretty good team then. And then when gold went down, we just parked the asset. We said, look, asset's great. Let's just park it. And then gold goes up. Let's bring it back and let's get a permit. So what I've done is a lot of the engineers that I worked with back then are back on the team. If you go on our website, you'll see that. We've got some really good figures. And Jerry's a great addition as a CFO because I was doing CEO, CFO, everything. And so now we're Jerry coming on as a great thing. And then if you look at our website, you'll see the other engineers. And all those people that are involved with us today were involved with me 5-6 years ago. So I got everybody back that were involved. So it's been pretty great. What's the next one here? Yeah, so I think someone asked me, we've already delivered a strong year-to-date performance, I think, on our stock, but I think you got to remember, we hadn't talked. If you go on our website, we haven't done it. We did a news release for 5 years, so no one even know who we were until about 2 months ago. I started doing some discussions about the company and that kind of stuff and getting things going. So I think there's a lot more catalysts coming. And I think the biggest catalyst we believe is the first biggest catalyst is the POO. Then you'll see a PEA. You'll see the more drilling. You'll see the water holes drilled that we prove the water, and then you'll see the permit file. So I think in the next 6 months, you'll see a lot of strong catalysts as we start moving forward. And we're really excited about this year. Someone asked about financing. We're actually in the middle of financing. I can't say the price, but we'll close on Monday. So we'll have enough money in the bank, and all the debt will be gone. So the company will have zero debt, all the money we need in the bank to basically go to permit. And that was the focus of what we've been doing the last month. Here's a good one. Someone asked a question: partnership or royalty streaming transactions that could help surface value and broaden your shareholder base while limiting dilution. Yeah, there's a lot. We have a lot of opportunities there for sure. I think for us, and again, go back to the development of this. When we acquired the property in 2012, late 2012. The whole point of this is that as we drive this thing forward to permit, there's a lot of opportunities to raise funding and how you want to raise funding to go to production. There's debt, there's royalties, there's a lot of different ways to do that. And as you see with the filings, you'll see another 8K filing with me probably next week, because I am the pretty big investor in this financing. You'll see that we have a lot of opportunities to do that, to make sure that we want to raise the money the best way for the shareholders, because we are all the insiders are shareholders. We've never sold a share, and the whole focus of this whole thing from the very beginning was to get a mine into production, and that's what we're doing now. So let me see if I answered all the questions. Sorry. Oh, okay, yeah. Given the low strip ratio, simple open pit, heap leach flow sheet, and potential improvements in silver recovery to around 60%, how do you see Longshoot's margin profile stacking up? Well, if you look at the economic model right now, our operating costs, not payback of capital, just operating costs, is probably is below $1,000 an ounce. So we believe on the first 200,000 equivalent ounces of gold, we're about $1,000 an ounce of production. That's basically only recovering 80% of the gold and 13% of the silver. We do know that when we did the work with McClellan a number of years ago, that if we crushed a little bit more, we could get more silver and possibly a little bit more gold. We didn't put that in our PEA or our model in 21 because gold was $18, and it didn't make sense to add more cost to the production to get something else. But now, with gold being where it is today, we actually are doing some tests this March to prove that we can extract more silver and possibly more gold. And then that's why when I said we'll do a new PEA, that PEA will probably be done in April, because we want to have our new testing done to show that we can recover more of the silver and maybe a little bit more of the gold. So that will change the economics of the mine a lot better than it is today, which is still really good. Another someone said, how likely will you have all the permits necessary? So again, I think it's all about risk. As again, I'm done this with my fourth one, and it's all about risk. And I believe that we've ticked off all the risks. So biology, species, archaeological, and water, all those things are done. And there's nothing in the way. So the only thing that would slow us down on the permit side is the government. And I think that everyone would agree that we could not be in a better government atmosphere than we are today to move our mining permit forward. So, any other questions? Oh, that's a good question. Your new CFO has helped raise hundreds of millions across prior public companies. How does that change the menu of your financing options you can realistically pursue for Longstreet? Yeah, I think it does. I think Jerry's a phenomenal addition. I've raised over $1 billion in my life time in companies. I think between myself and Jerry, we have a lot of connections to basically look at how we want to structure this going forward. Like I said, we're closing a financing that takes care of our current needs on the permitting side. But I think we have a lot of, that's one of the reasons why, I took a long time looking for a good CFO, and Jerry's a phenomenal addition. And I think he brings a lot of public company stuff with us, and plus a lot of contacts there. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to do a lot of interesting things to raise money as we go down the track. Here's a question. With most baseline studies complete and hydrology geochemistry work underway in 2026, what are the remaining key de-risking milestones investors should watch over the next 6 to 12 months? I think the de-risking is us announcing things being finished. So I think the key is the POO. So the plan of operations, we hope will be approved. I had a site tour with the government on site just before Christmas. We had 3 conversations, and we believe that they would approve everything we want to do, and that should be done hopefully early March. That's a catalyst. Once that's proven, then we go ahead and do those things, which is basically all the other things we want to get done, including things outside of that, which is like PEA, and we'll do a bigger resource. So we have 3 things going on. We'll have basically all the stuff we got to get done to get the permit filed and things approved. Then we'll have our resource drilling on the bottom, coming down that hill to basically pick up that triangle. We think the grades are getting larger and larger. And so I think you'll see a lot of catalysts over the next 6 months. Hopefully in 6 months or 7 months, the actual filing of the permit, which is a big one. And then next year, early next year, while the permit is basically being moved through the process, we do want to go in and drill a little bit more on north, just to expand those 3 holes we did and go down 400 feet. Because if we could drill a couple of deeper holes there and show mineralogy all the way down to say 1,000 feet, then that really gives you the idea that those 2 hills are connected, and there's a massive feeder somewhere below that. What does success look like for you and the board in 3 to 5 years in terms of production profile, balance sheet strength, potential for dividends, returns? So I think that because we are shareholders, obviously, we all the insiders are invested on this financing we're doing right now. I think that when you look at success is get into production, and then what we believe is, because we believe the ore body's bigger, as we drill into the pit, as we find more resources, the production will go up. So the limit, we're limited on our current permit that we're doing on X amount of millions of tons of ore, but that can be expanded. Our leach pad, where it will be, has a lot of growth potential there. So the idea is that if we can start at 30,000 ounces of gold for the first year, maybe expand to 60,000 ounces and higher as years go on, this could be a really, really big uptick. And again, what is the value to the shareholder? It's all about what you believe gold is. If you believe if gold will stay at $4,000 an ounce, then we will produce over $100 million net cash flow per year under the current scenario for 4.5 years, if all we have is that little top, which we know based on the drilling, it's more than that. So anyways, I'm 3 minutes overdue, and they're trying to get me to stop chatting here. So sorry. Thanks a lot, everybody. Again, you can email me, go to the website. I answer I answer every email. So thank you for listening, and great questions, you guys. Thank you very much. Take care.